We are Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. And today you are joining us for a very special bonus episode of the show. We usually do a live stream every Friday on your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube and Twitch. But this time we had to prepare a special episode because we saw DC's The Flash, which if you're hearing this is out now. And we have so much to talk about with this pivotal DC Universe movie that we needed an entire episode just to do it. So, joining me today in Comic Book Studios is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar, one of our big comic book experts, Mr. Connor Casey, one of our wrestling and general geek culture experts, and from the home studio, the person we threw into all of this wild experiment, Miss Janelle Wheeler, is with us. And as I said, this is our bonus episode dedicated entirely to talking about the Flash movie spoilers. So if you guys have not seen the Flash yet, look, we got two other episodes. We got a review episode. We have a non-spoiler instant reaction you can listen to on this same platform or on whatever video or podcast downloading platform you're listening to. So check those out if you haven't seen the movie. This is for people who have seen the movie and are ready to get into it with us. Guys, let's start right off the top. We got to see The Flash together. Let's go around and just kind of talk about how we felt about the film and like what we would rate it. I've been doing my thinking. For me, I'm taking the safe position that this is a good, easy kind of like 3.5 star movie. For me, there's some silly elements. There's some, technical things that I don't think were as polished, at least in the version we saw. But I thought that there's a good heart to this. There's a good story to this. There's a lot of good performances in this. And it kind of surprisingly delivers a very fun Back to the Future storyline. I would even go maybe as high as 4. I think at about 3.5, 4 is where I would kind of rate The Flash. But let's just go around real quick. Matt, as the comic book expert, what do you think?
I'm in your ballpark. I think 3.5 is actually... There are times when I think about Ezra's main through line story that I go, maybe that bumps it up to a 4, because there were some emotional moments that got me. And so I go, maybe that's a 4. But 3.5 is probably where 3.5 to 4 is where I sit on it. I enjoyed it far more than I expected to. And the action stuff that's in here is fantastic. It's a spectacle. It's all the things you want in this type of superhero movie with emotional backbone. So, 3.5, 4 sounds for me.
Janelle, let's just hop to your window. What would be your star rating out of 5?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a solid 4. I think you guys are definitely onto something. And there was a lot of emotion here and nothing cringy. And just, it was very enjoyable. I actually went and saw Spider-Verse last night. And I stacked those two against each other, and I actually liked this more. So,
oof, we could get into that all day.
Oh yeah,
but we're going to talk about that on our Flash review podcast. We're going to get into that, ranking this movie amongst summer movie and DC movies. But Connor Casey, if you listen to our Flash instant reaction podcast, which you should do anyway, Connor had a very different view of this movie. I am so curious to hear, what is your star rating?
I also give it a 4 out of 10. Because this was not very good. It's and you pointed out in my reaction that was a bit all over the place because this movie is all over the place. Does the emotional journey that the Flash does that work? Yes. Does Sasha Calle work? Yes. Does Michael Keaton as Batman returning again after all these years? Absolutely. Michael Shannon looks bored. The third act does not work. They walk right up to the line of having something really interesting to say, and they back off. The cameos were underwhelming. The CGI is Jim Carrey Christmas Carol levels of bad at times.
Wow.
And I don't know.
That's the second kind of Christmas winter movie you have besmirched.
Yeah, stop bashing on Christmas movies.
I will keep bashing those bad mid-2000s
How
CGI
dare
movies.
You? Polar Express and now Jim Carrey.
I refuse. And if you've seen the Speed Force sequence, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or those babies at the beginning.
So what is
also,
the star rating out of 5?
2.5. I cannot go higher.
Okay, all right. So here you have it. We got like 3.54, but that's good because I think that's a good average. So that puts us within like a 3.5 range for this movie out of 5 altogether collectively. That's our, we ain't gonna say the name of that other site. That's our Comic Book Tomatoes kind of score here. We giving it about a solid 3.5 out of 5. All right, so that's how we feel about the film. Let's get into it, okay? So we're gonna do this kind of step by step. First, let's talk about the thing that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be immediately buzzing about if they're coming out of the movie and probably turning on this podcast. Some crazy, crazy DC crossover cameos in this film. We've heard about them for so long, and we finally got them. Connor's made his position clear. He thought they were underwhelming. But let's just go through what happens. So this is the spoilers part. We are now getting into this. This is your last chance to bail out.
No turning back.
No turning back. Spoiler alert. Here we go. So, we have a lot of like little Snyderverse cameos, right? Starting right from the beginning, Gal Gadot's Wonder... I mean, there's stuff we knew. We knew Ben Affleck's Batman was in it, all that. But Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman shows up on a bridge.
Great sequence, yeah.
She's just doing everything. I mean, she's just stumping for the entire DCU.
I mean, she was like, if you're going to make me show up in Shazam 2, at least let me show up for a little bit
for
better
something
one.
good in The Flash, yeah. So we got Ben Affleck's Batman, Gal Gadot, we get a fake out with Superman from the back with Henry Cavill's Superman from the back. Jason Momoa's Aquaman shows up in the final end credit sequence. But we get some things from the DC universe that was or almost was as well. Oh, Tamara Morrison as Aquaman's father shows up in a Flashpoint scene to be like, yeah, I've never.
They let him out of his back to tank for a minute.
Yeah, sort of. He can only go in that house.
It was all healed up.
That man has 2 places he can go: the back to tank or that house by the lighthouse place. But yeah, he shows up for that kind of cameo. And of course, Michael Shannon, Andre Trow, like the original Man of Steel. We all know those.
The girl with the short haircut from Man of Steel.
That did something to me. Yeah, I mean,
Jeremy,
I wasn't BDSM before Man of Steel, but we'll
did
talk
I
about
imagine
after.
Jeremy Irons?
No, Jeremy Irons.
Okay.
Yeah, is in it as so
the
we get
best
these fun
Alfred.
cameos. But the big ones, of course, are we get Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as the original kind of Donner era Superman and
It's a cool
Supergirl
spot.
in this final sequence where Barry's kind of messed up the multiverse and there are all these incursions kind of happening to these different worlds of DC that look like stacked round toy shelves, kind of horribly rendered CGI. But within those worlds, we get to see these alternate DC characters. And so we see the original Donner era Superman and Supergirl.
Is that George Reeves? Or?
Well, we get George Reeves
Christopher-
as well.
Yeah, George Reeve is in one part.
Yeah.
Yep. Christopher Reeve and, like I said, Helen Slater, the original kind of movie Superman and Supergirl are in there. The most fun one, I think, is they actually put Nick Cage in a Superman suit.
Amazing.
So the movie hasn't come out yet, but like, is 10% of the audience going to get that joke? Like, we obviously do because we're in the bubble.
I didn't get it.
But Janelle didn't get like,
Right.
No,
unless you know that
I was
story
looking
of
for
Superman
Grant.
Lives,
I
you
was
have
just
no
pissed off
idea
that
why
he
he's
wasn't
there.
That was my only qualm.
Yeah.
I also love
So,
that
yeah.
he's fighting a spider.
Yeah,
Which, if you
is
If you know
ever
about Superman Lives,
been
you
so
know why.
intrinsic, yes. To look, if you listen to Kevin Smith talk for a little bit, there's a chance you
I even
have
put it
any
in
kind
here.
of thing.
Watch the documentary.
I think we have the picture of from that movie, Tim Burton's. So the Nick Cage thing, for anybody who doesn't get it, was Tim Burton almost made a movie called Superman Lives, like early on in the 2000s. And this went into pre-production. It was going to be wild. It was going to be after the death of Superman, Superman coming back from the dead, kind of a play on the comic, event of the 90s with Nick Cage as Superman. And it was going to be Brainiac was going to be the villain. And in one sequence was going to be Superman having to fight this giant spider.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great.
Yeah, and there's a whole book written about like this, and and
really
a
good documentary on it.
made about it.
It's infamous.
Yeah,
the spider.
and about how crazy this concept for Nick Cage's Superman was. And so this movie kind of honors that by actually having Nick Cage come in, get into the suit, and recreate that spider fight sequence from the concept art that everybody that has been
was
like. Like as Connor said, DC hardcores, like this has been floating around for years now, and so we get to see that play out, which I enjoy.
I love that.
I love
spot.
that
I thought that was
so
great.
much. And of course, we're left with the big cliffhanger that is going to have everybody spazzing out, where Barry gets back to his own universe to find he's changed some things, including we now have a very different Batman in the form of George Clooney, star of Batman and Robin, getting out of the limo, and of course that's how The Flash ends, with the reveal that Clooney's Batman is now the Batman.
The best Bruce Wayne, because he is Bruce Wayne. George Clooney's Bruce Wayne in real life, and has always been the best Bruce Wayne. He is him.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I agree.
I don't agree. I don't disagree with you. He is the best Bruce Wayne. Like, so let's just start from this, because I know that's the meat and potatoes that everybody really wants to talk about. Do you guys think, and this kind of goes into the larger question of, I know I'm going to skip around here, but there's a metaphor in this movie, of course, about what the DC multiverse is and what's happening in The Flash, and it's a bowl of spaghetti that Michael Keaton's Batman is making.
Wonderful analogy, by the way.
Yeah.
I got that.
It works for what their idea of the multiverse is, because for multiverse, depends on who you ask and how they try to explain it, but it's like, actually, if you just mess with time, it all gets mangled up, and the director has free reign to grab from anywhere and say, that's history now.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, literally just splitting off into a different time.
Guys.
But like I understood this one better than I understood Marvel's. Okay, like Marvel's, you had to explain to me in 3 different freaking projects for me to really grasp.
Which none of them still make sense. I mean,
No. This one I got in 5 minutes, and I go,
and
yeah,
I'm
that makes
not
sense.
Sure if Sylvie, Kingpin, or Doctor Strange broke the multiverse. I'm not sure. Or
So I give it credit.
Or did they just all do it at the same time and everybody was just like, oh, there we go.
They all did it to a level where it doesn't matter.
So it just
Or
goes
if
to
it was
show,
just like that week in Marvel, like where all the superheroes came in one week, right?
always define your hard concepts by noodles.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was just a narrative way. Excuse me. It was a narrative way for DC to basically say, yeah, we do just pick and choose what we want.
Mm-hmm. It's a
And
grab
this-
bag.
And because this noodle fell this way, and that's why. Why, if you ask this question in the future, go look at the noodle bowl. It'll explain everything. But do you guys think that this movie, and this goes to a very large point that we talked about in the reactions piece, which is what do you do with the future of this, with the Ezra Miller of it all? And we all came to the conclusion on the reactions piece, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Go listen to the reactions piece. But we came to the conclusion that this is pretty much going to probably be a wait and see for Warner Brothers to see when this movie comes out, does the real life stuff, because as we said, Ezra Miller, they're not necessarily a mainstream Heartland America box office draw yet. Like their career, for all the great things they've done on screen, hasn't penetrated like the average moviegoer who only knows about like 2 movies per year. You know, that whole SNL thing. I don't remember what movies have come out. Like, those people don't know. So will this movie actually spark the controversy all over again when people begin like, oh, that dude in The Flash is great. And then it's like, well, it's not a dude. It's a non-binary, icon who's also had this long line of crazy criminal allegations. And that's, we're going to have who is Ezra Miller pieces are going to be interesting, right? So... yeah. So what happens here? And I think that hinges a lot on what the reaction is and what to do with Ezra Miller. But is this the bookend? Because you could conceivably say, based on what the noodle model showed us and all the incursions and stuff we saw, this is the end of just one of those like little marble shelves, like the marble-shaped DC shelf worlds, right? The Snyderverse, all this stuff, it's its own little spinning thing out there. But when we come back in, we're on a different one of those, right? And it's not the same. Or is this the new continuity we're building out of? And so that comes back to saying, is Clooney's thing a one-off, just a joke at the end of the Snyderverse? To say, hey, we fixed the Snyderverse, it's over, and this is the ending, and now this is our Batman, ha 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 ha. Or is this the guy we got to start thinking about for Brave and the Bold?
This was very much a, hey, here's a one-off joke.
Yeah.
Clooney could take a break from his coffee commercials to walk on set and walk out of a car for a couple of hours, and that'd be the end of it. Like this, it felt like it was just a punchline at the end of like, hey, he messed with one thing about his dad looking up at the camera because he moved the tomatoes, which, out of context, that sentence sounds like I just had a stroke. But... It's like, okay, you changed the one thing, so something else has to change, and what is it? Clooney's Batman again. And it was just a punchline.
Yeah, I think it was
and Janelle talked about it in the reactions, and I touched on it too. Like, people are going to walk into this movie thinking that this is the big grand finale for the DCEU, and it's not really. It's kind of small in certain ways where I'm just like, if this is the big send off, really? This is it? This is all we're gonna get? Okay. And ride off into the sunset, and Gunn's gonna be like, okay, it's all new. And if you're like, hey, why isn't this person playing this character, and where's Gal? It's like, guys, whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
You know, the rules are different again. Don't expect Jeremy Irons as Alfred to show up. Don't expect any version of Batman to show up. By the way, no Nolan presence at all. What the hell? And no Pattinson. Like, that felt easy. And
Okay, that one's actually, so I don't. Nolan always is its own thing.
Yeah.
Nolan's his own thing.
Never gonna let his stuff be wrapped up in this.
No, but I know.
But
I don't think
stuff.
But I don't think. Yeah, but that's more. Nolan has successfully. I think. I don't even think it's a bad thing. I just think he's very much like kind of insulated that whole universe to be. This is the Nolan Batman.
But you couldn't have had a screenshot of Tom Hardy's Bane.
I agree. I just think I don't take that as a knock towards it. I just think that's more of a. Nolan seems very protective.
And it's also it's not even Nolan. Warner Brothers is in DC are highly protective of Batman, so they don't they won't let you use Batman for anything or for any amount of that will cause any amount of confusion for what they're planning or doing.
But Batman 66 was in the cameos too, right?
Yeah, yes, Adam West was in the cameos as well. So. Yeah, but it's been too many kind of crossover cameos between this and Spider-Verse. I'm all straight. But I don't think we're ever going to see the Nolanverse referenced in League without just like you're not going to see Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in there either. Like, it's just,
but if there were ever a movie to just be like, hey, here's an image of them.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the one to do it.
Yeah, of course,
and that's why it feels small. It's like if you want this to be, it's your Flashpoint. And that final sequence is basically Crisis on Infinite Earths with the different realities smashing together. This is the one time where you can have Adam West and Nolan Batman exist in the same plane of existence. Yeah. And they didn't do it.
If you want to do that, though, you can also read Batman 900, which very much does do that.
Sure.
No, I mean, and I want to talk about this and kind of now get into deeper kind of the best and worst aspects of this film and kind of pick it apart a little bit. But I think that's what I personally thought was good about this movie was it isn't just a DC Snyderverse ending event film like we all thought it was going to be. And if you really look at the Snyderverse, I think what this does is they had one more thing to do, which was Barry Allen's story was unfinished, very much so. But after specifically Zack Snyder's Justice League, 2 Wonder Woman movies, Batman and Superman and Justice League, and Aquaman 1, the rest of the Justice League story is arguably cut off and finished. Cyborg gets kind of his story arc.
Aquaman gets his another movie.
Yeah. And so does Wonder Woman. She's established herself. We know why she's here. We know why she's doing what she's doing now and saving the world after Steve Trevor and all that after 2 movies. We know why Aquaman has now found his way to a hero. Batman v Superman and Justice League bring Bruce Wayne, Batman around to being, a brighter kind of hero. It brings Superman back from the dead as his better, happier, brighter self. And like I said, they're all tied off. It was only Barry who still had a lot of crazy stuff to deal with his dad and the trauma of his thing. So I get why this is the last solo movie in this franchise and also kind of an epilogue for this part of the franchise and doing their own version of Flashpoint. So I got that, and I was actually more pleasantly surprised by that, and I think I'm going to be in the minority in that, but I liked a third act, and we said this, now we can get into it on the reactions. So let's talk best and worst moments, because I think the ending and the beginning of this movie are the two going to be the most highly debated points of this movie. We'll get to the baby sequence in a second, but yeah, I liked that the ending turned out to be, and we were always kind of kept in the dark about who the true villain of this, and we saw dark Flash toys, and we were all like, oh boy, what's this going to be? But I liked how they used the time travel mechanics and doing this and Barry's obsession to show that this constant thing that really needed to be fixed was him and his emotions, and his kind of obsession led to this universal break. And then even when he met his variant self, that variant self started to get all tweaked out and started, going nuts too, to the point of doing that whole Dark Flash timeline and never giving up on trying to fix things. And I actually did like that there was an emotional climax to this that is in some ways very Spider-Man-ish, that he has to give up on something and literally let his mom die again, which I didn't think they were going to do this, something that dark, but he's just like, yeah, I got to let my mom die again. And that beautiful, and I think we were all talking about, crying, that
That moment
sequence,
is
yeah,
powerful.
where he's just trying to hold on. If you've ever lost somebody, like just trying to hold on to that last minute when he turns Flash and say goodbye to his mom.
The moment at the grocery store, 1,000% works.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. Like, that's a phenomenal, memorable superhero moment.
Yeah.
From here on out, I think that lasts.
What I mean by walking right up to the line and pulling back is, I love the idea that, first of all, if you're going to say something's a temporal paradox by pointing it out, that still doesn't make it make sense. It's like saying like, hey, this plot point doesn't make sense, and then just moving on. You still didn't really explain how it worked. But anyway, I like that they didn't try to do a Thawne thing where it's like, explaining the Reverse Flash is going to be way too complicated. They didn't try to bring the Black Racer in. They kept it very personal. And I like the idea that the villain is ultimately a distorted version of Barry who just physically could not give up on trying to save everyone, namely his mother.
Yeah.
The problem is that they walk it back right at the last second, where you start to see the sequence of his younger self going through the process of, no, if I go back, I can do one more thing, and he's getting to the point where shards of metal are still sticking out of him from the last fight and the 3 fights before that because he refuses to stop. And I wish they had just kept going with the sequence. Instead, they just have future Barry, who's all messed up, just show up, and then past Barry sacrifices himself. I'm like, no. Have the conflict be with our Barry and the consequences of his actions, as opposed to just having the younger one make the save and have the big sacrifice and that be it. But what that means is that our Barry, by the time we get to that thing, he's already learned his lesson. And it's like, okay, there's something missing here.
I got it, but it is writing yourself into a box because, movies dictate somebody's got to be punished for these things, right? And it's like, yeah, we could have killed off, and some people thought like there would be a karmic punishment with Ezra Miller's Barry Allen having to, be unmade and remade as something else that would have been
he didn't
recast.
have to kill, he didn't have to die, he just really had to just beat his future self and be like, no, but this was the mistake that I made. I
got it why neither one of the two Barrys we hung out with throughout the movie could end up being transformed fully into like a villain themselves, separated, because because punishing the other Barry younger Barry that he transformed, that wouldn't feel right.
Punishing the younger Barry is a reflection of our Barry making a mistake.
Right, but again, in movie rules, like, people don't walk away feeling well. They'll be like, whoa, we'd have hashtag justice for young Barry would be like.
I agree.
People.
But I'm not gonna talk though. I wanna.
Yeah, but I get why they did the Dark Flash thing as a possible variant that they could then get rid of, and it is kind of conveniently clean and tidy that young Barry sacrifices himself. We get rid of all the variant Barrys, but eventually you do got to get rid of the clones, right? It's never pretty. But I wasn't that mad at that sequence. Like I said, I think it was the personal nature of realizing, we're not going to get, like, nobody's solving this big Kryptonian invasion somehow. There's not going to be like a Justice League win. They need Superman to do that.
Yeah.
Like, they're all going to die. Everybody's going to die. The Earth's going to get messed up, and this is all screwed up. And him having to be like, yeah, I did this, and it's because of my obsession, and I have to let it go, I thought was more powerful than most of the kind of things. Because, even at home with a 5-year-old boy, like, explaining I've had to sit him down and be like, look, I get what some of these movies are making you think, but no, that's not what, like, a hero always does. And have to bring up the Luke Skywalker of it all again. Like, sometimes not fighting and not doing something or sacrificing something you want is what, like, a hero does and Spider-Man does. And sometimes we lose sight of that when it's just like, we got to beat up Invisible Army and then we win. So I like that this movie went a different route than that. But again, I'm not going to say that the beginning and end bookends of this movie aren't a little choppy for me.
They both feel like we've tried this a few times because the production of this movie has been a nightmare.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing is a Frankenstein version of a few different takes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure getting out of this was pretty hard to get out of this whole thing once you got into it. But I was pleasantly surprised by how they did it, and I don't think it's going to be the thing that really makes or breaks this for a lot of DC fans.
Well,
personally.
and so I know coming into this, Janelle, you were a little justice for Grant Gustin, right? There's a little bit of that going. How did How did you feel like that played out? Like, were you satisfied with it? Are you more on Connor's side? Are you more on Kofi's side?
Or you already joining your march on Nashville for Grant Gustin fans?
Yeah, I'm still Grant Gustin. I mean, I would love to see him have the opportunity to work with like a big studio and try this rollout for, on the big screen. Granted, I don't know if he wants to continue his time with the Flash. I think it also just times out very interestingly with like the end of the Arrowverse and the end of kind of the CW stuff. But yeah, I was able to escape into this film enough to not even think about that. Like, and I think it's about, your own headspace. You have to go in knowing this isn't some preconceived notion of the Flash. Like, this is Ezra's Flash, and enjoy it for what it is. And that's kind of what I did. I appreciated every little moment for what they were. The only thing that I said earlier that I was kind of beefing with is that if you're going to have all of these cameos, to not even acknowledge, like, to not even put Grant on the big screen one time. You bring Ezra to the Flash, the TV show, but you won't bring Grant to the big screen. It just kind of, that kind of like annoyed me, but it wasn't like, I hate this film because of it. I just think it was like a missed opportunity. And yeah, I don't know. My favorite part was Clooney. I know we're bringing it full circle, but I loved seeing Clooney, and obviously we were all in the same theater. Everyone screamed bloody murder. I mean, I think it was the loudest reaction of the whole film. So
it might have been, actually.
I was more wrapped up in that.
Very well might have been.
And also the opening sequence with the baby saving. That's
a perfect segue.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue. So we're going to talk for, like, I want to get from everybody, like, one of your favorite moments. You just gave us yours. Yeah. What was one of your most like least favorite or worst parts of the movie for you?
I really don't have a least favorite. I genuinely liked the whole film. I know that's not maybe Batman in his kitchen. Like it was just cringy, like corny. That was like the only corny moment to me in the whole film. But no, I just really loved the movie. I can't stop thinking about it.
All right there, Pete Travers. All right. Let's go. Connor, what would get you? This is a challenge for you in the opposite way. One really good moment, then you can go in on really bad moment.
One really good moment is Ben Affleck accidentally holding the lasso of truth.
So
because
good.
I think it is hilarious how anytime a director gets their hands on Ben Affleck's Batman, they immediately try to reverse what Snyder was doing and make him a little bit more likable. So I thought that, I'm like, I cannot accept actually getting a thank you from somebody. I'm like, nailed it.
Oh, I did hear you laugh at that part. Yeah. So worst part, Connor. Now it's your time to shine.
One. You won.
Just one.
Not
just
10.
One. Baby in a microwave.
Yeah,
what
that's mine too.
What in
okay,
Sam
let's get
hell?
into it.
Oh wait, I haven't given my best one first.
All right.
Best one first. Okay, so best moment is the sequence. Oh man, this is hard. So best moment is probably when he has to sacrifice him. That's the most impactful moment of the entire damn movie. That's the best from a cinematic point of view. Like that's the best moment. I cried. I legit cried.
That probably is.
The
grocery scene is the best.
Man, like that will last with me for wherever this movie does, box office, whatever. That will last with me forever. Like that's an amazing moment. Also, props to that fight scene. Sasha Calle's Supergirl just rules.
Nailing Zod.
Oh my god, that fight scene when she's like in the suit and like you get the full oh my god, this ruled. Worst, and this will be a perfect segue. Worst is the babies, because that is your opening impression of the movie, and it is not, to me, like I was so like, what the hell? Like taken out of it. I was just it was not the best primer to get into that movie.
If you want to say the multiverse look with that CGI, with like the arena looking thing, if you want to say that's an aesthetic choice,
yeah,
fine. There's no excuse for the babies.
It's
like these are rubbery, and
the babies are that whole sequence in the opening. So if you're just listening to this and you're not going to go see The Flash, in the beginning sequence is Barry just trying to get breakfast. It's all about his power is draining.
That was funny.
He has low calories. He's trying to get into like a knockoff Starbucks and get like a meal. But it's showing you how slow time is for him to wait in line, get his meal. And as he's waiting, he gets this Justice League call. Carmine Falcone's son, great name drop, by the way, is like stealing some stuff. Bruce needs help, is chasing him. None of the other Justice League can get to this hospital collapse, so they need Barry to get out there, and he's just kind of like... And it's funny because it's just kind of ragging on the Flash being just this like non-special, just heavy, like kind of catch-all for the Justice League. Like, yo, we're busy. We know you're fast. Get out there and handle it. And he has to when they add the Hitchcock stakes of, oh, my calories are dropping. I can't maintain my speed. All these crazy things are happening. But it is a very strange sequence, and it is, for me, my least favorite thing about the movie because it is. What a way to start. It was like... It doesn't break the movie. It's not like anybody's going to get up and walk out, but it is just like, it's very overwrought. You didn't need to make it this overwrought. And they try to go for this. And I think sometimes movies do things that are just so big and stupid. Like the plane crash in Superman Returns was another one of these. Everybody hyped up that plane crash sequence and all this stuff. And it cost them so much money. It took so much to film. And it's only okay when you see it. You're like, that was all right. Yeah. You didn't need to blow $100 million on this by any means. And it's like, how much did this baby sequence cost? Because it is probably the most VX heavy, intricate, overwrought sequence in this whole movie, and it's nothing we needed.
And you can tell they're so proud of it because the whole dog falling thing is the credits.
Yeah.
But all you needed was the dog.
Yeah. You could.
The dog was fine.
Like in our current sociopathic version of the world, everybody would have cared more about just the dog than a whole string of babies. Welcome to the world.
Yeah, because then it's just... And then, like you said, my thing was, it was weird. I also have, like, continuing issues with how Snyder at the beginning, but also since then, they approached the Flash's power set. Like, they approach it...
made fun of his running form by having him try to do it.
I love the meta-ness of that. I'm like, every time the Flash does things, sometimes I'm just like, that's not how this works. Like, that's not how the Flash's powers work. I get very comic nerdy on it. I'm like, he's not a time travel. Like, here's the thing. Kudos, by the way, for getting rid of the cosmic treadmill. The worst device in comicdom. That thing is the dumbest thing on the planet. So, kudos for that. They got rid of that and they gave him a little bubble, which is cool, and they give him the little symbol thing. That's awesome.
And yet they demanded they keep the sequence where he has to sit in a chair and get electrocuted twice because we had to keep that in the comic, the animated version.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay. Set the timer for when I can stop paying attention to this guy being charred.
You gotta have temples, man, and that one's one of them. All right, you gotta have it.
Barry get electrocuted.
But his whole the way he runs up the building to get I was just like, that's like three people's powers. Like I keep having issues with that, and then the babies don't look real
at all.
They clearly they look like this
those,
is like
commercials. What was a commercial that did it?
Janelle will get this. This is Renesmee in Twilight. That's right. That. What the hell? That is not a real child.
It was a whole hospital full of E-Trade babies right there. Yeah.
And then the microwave. And the microwave.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, that was my least favorite single moment because that was like. As soon as these allegations about Ezra Miller and specifically the child endangerment stuff came out, that was so gauche to kind of keep in this movie.
Yeah.
I did not feel comfortable seeing this person put a baby, even fictional, in a microwave, even if it's to protect the baby. Like, once you start having to say, and I almost cursed, but once you have to start saying stuff like that out loud, like, hey, well, we're putting the baby in a microwave, but it's to save him. Or there's acid and knives coming out, babies, but, like... We got stuff for that. We're going to put them in a bedpan. Ha, ha, ha. It's like...
And even without context, it's like, what are we, 12? Like,
yeah, and it's
what the hell?
And it's all like, that's the kind of comedy that's going to give you James Gunn problems on Twitter, right? Like, these are not the things you need to be doing. You're paying more, making it harder to film all this, and you're working for what? A baby gag so that you can catch everything? Like, we've seen the Flash's powers work. There was infinite number... First of all, that sequence does not even beat the Zack Snyder sequence of going back in time and, with the charge and opening the box.
Gustin's got half a dozen sequences that
you're right.
So
absolutely,
it's a very stupid start to the movie for me, and I was just like, I hope the whole movie isn't overwrought. Now, other parts of that, and this is about the Flash in general, that I think keeps it at like a 3.5 for me, is how uneven it is. Like, even in that sequence alone, the parts with the dogs and the babies falling and all that looks so bad. But unlike Connor, I liked the Batman chase sequence part.
Oh, I love that sequence.
Yeah, that sequence was great to me, and it's happening concurrently, right?
awesome.
Like, it's happening at the same time. So I'm looking at like one part of this movie I really like and looks really polished and fun, and the other part I'm just going like, what's going on here? And
It's Batfleck on a motorcycle. How?
No,
That's amazing.
I didn't have a problem with that part.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
that was my favorite Batman chase
so
scene. I think
cool.
in any movie. I was trying to go over it in my head, but yeah, that's my favorite Batman chase scene in any movie. Like and it was very much felt like the comics or Batman the animated series or something like that.
It's nice seeing him in the blue too.
Yeah.
Lighter blue.
So, and these are
love to
happening
see
at the
it, but
same
like-
time, these two sequences. And so, like, that just kind of speaks to me about a lot of what The Flash was for me. It was just like, in one moment, I'm like so engrossed and enjoying this. And the next moment, I'm like, who are these E-Trade animators doing this?
Perfect
Like,
way to encapsulate that. The sequence where young Barry gets his powers by the lightning shooting through old Barry. It's like, hey, I have an idea. Let's have his tooth pop out and fly into the other guy's mouth.
Yeah, that got really weird.
What?
Okay, here's the thing. I didn't love the. I have a very like I avoid WebMD, right? Because like I have a like hypochondriac kind of edge to me. I will
Please
like
tell
I
me
will
where
go
this
on a
is
run.
going.
No. I have to like avoid looking up things. So like if I get a cut or if I do whatever, I can't look up stuff because like I will go down a rabbit hole. So when the tooth flies into his mouth, I went, oh, that's gross. And then I was like, oh, what happens if you like swallow a tooth? And I was like, oh man, it got edgy, so like it'll cut the lining like that. So like my head, I went down a very like
went down a
long
medical-
list of things, and I went, oh, I gotta stop. And then like I missed like a good solid 2 minutes of footage because I was already processing this. But the moment later, when it gets knocked out, I left. So it's one of those weird things of like I don't understand. It didn't have to be in there. It didn't need that. However, there was like I agree with Kofi's unevenness. Like there's unevenness even in that joke. I laughed at the second part. So the payoff was there, but the first part was just maybe if it just doesn't land in his mouth. Maybe that's like I don't know. There was just
It's like the baby thing. They had to take it a step further. It didn't need to be.
just knock out his tooth. That's funny.
Well, yeah, him knocking out the tooth, gluing it back in,
That's
and then
funny.
at the very end, it falling out is
Yeah.
a great callback gag. That's like
Yeah.
my favorite sitcom.
It was
That's
funny.
like an Always Sunny thing. I forgot to talk about It's Always Sunny today on the podcast. Oh, right. Anyway, this is not that show, but I just remembered that I was supposed to talk about that. But anyway, going back, because I had Evan here. Oh, my God. Anyway, so the tooth jag didn't
okay.
work. It didn't work because that part with going into... I was out of it too, but not for the reason I wasn't going on WebMD. I'm like, I started getting this existential crisis. Like, is it weird if your tooth gets knocked out and into another version of you? Is that weird or is that okay?
Well, then
It
we're
was
getting
like,
into the whole Loki and Sylvie thing. Like, what do we even call
Yeah,
that?
and it's just like-
why do we have a term for it? Because it physically can't exist. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
all-
I mean, but it was just things I didn't need to think about, and again, things we didn't need to spend time animating, right?
Nope.
So it's just like we didn't need to add that, but that's what this movie kind of is. Like I said, it doesn't always know when to rein it in and just kind of like stop some stuff, but
And then you're gonna bring in Michael Shannon, which Boardwalk Empire fans know. The best way to use him is to have him slowly build his way up until he freaking loses it. He was half awake in this movie.
oh, I mean, have you watched the interview with him recently?
He's
On,
like, I don't know what that is. I'm
Yeah,
like,
he was just like,
dude.
yeah, they called me, and I was like, I'm dead. You know I'm dead. And they're like, yeah.
He's like, it's a multiverse. I don't know what that is.
He. I will find you.
Kofi doing
that's
voices
the
needs to
thing
be
you
a
want
regular
if you're bringing
feature
Zod
on the show.
back.
But they didn't really use Zod. And, like, again, and Michael Shannon even says, he's like, yeah, I was there for like a week or two, and I don't know. I went because Zach said I should go. And that's the only reason he was in this. He was like, he was ready to say F you to Warner Brothers and DC. He's like, you did Zach dirty. And he was like, all right, Zach said it's cool, I'm coming. So that's the only reason he's back in this. And again, it's a fake out, right? Like we saw in the trailers and we think there's going to be this epic war with the Kryptonians and Supergirl is going to be the one who defeats them instead of Superman and save the world. But it's not. It's a fake out. They're just...
See, I liked that.
So did I.
Yeah, I like the unpredictability. I think that was smart. My issue with it is what kind of Connor alluded to, and you even talked about this. The movie is not the wrap up in a bow fix all that we were kind of thinking it was. Okay, because we were kind of led to believe, hey, a new status quo. This movie is so important and it has to release because it's going to establish this new status quo that we can have moving forward, which is cherry pick the best parts and then get rid of the stuff that either doesn't make sense anymore or we can't legally use and all that other junk, and let's move on. And this movie muddies the waters enough that by the end you're like, you almost need
Literally at the end.
you
Muddy Water.
need like, okay, well now I need something else to kind of define that, because this was supposed to define it. So it's weird. However, I want more. Like, this movie did enough to. I want Sasha as Supergirl in some form or fashion. I don't know if she has to be the Supergirl or you change her, whatever. But like, this movie did enough to bring that character out, and I was like, I want more of her, and you just kind of didn't give me any sort of indication on what's here, what's not.
When Superman Legacy comes out in fill date here,
Yeah.
none of this is
July
gonna matter.
11th, 2025.
Right. So but I'm just like, this was supposed to answer questions, and in many ways it did not, and it just asked more. You have more questions coming out of this than you did going in. So I don't know. That part disappointed me, that there wasn't a finer point on that there wasn't something to like link onto and move forward. But I want more Sasha, because I love that character. I love that take.
Yeah, I mean, this is getting to be a problem with superhero content in general. It's like, I feel like they're losing the mettle to actually put fine points on everything. It's like, this is just all becoming TV. It's just like, find out next time on DC Universe. So, like, yeah, this movie is not at all, like, the end all. Like you said, it literally leaves us on the bigger question of, hey, is this our Clooney is just a one-off? And I'm not convinced like you guys, because I was right about The Rock and that whole Fast and Furious thing. And I have a crazy idea that I might be right about this. I think they could be crazy enough to actually bring in Clooney for The Brave and the Bold as an older Batman.
If
dad.
that happens, I am completely down.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's the
Completely
thing that
down with
people
that.
haven't. This is just a launch pad to test those waters, but I think more people would be down with it. As, I mean, TikTok's going to be like, he is Daddy Bat. Like, you know.
I don't know
He is father.
I don't know if Clooney's biting on that. Like, didn't Batman and Robin kind of derail his career there for a minute?
He did, but now he's like but he's different now. Like, he's a late
untouchable
game,
now.
he's a late game dad. You know,
Also, that
like,
was probably
yeah.
part of it. If they were to do enough to, if they were able to get him back for more than a one-off cameo, which, by the way, in itself, as he has talked about in numerous interviews when asked about Batman, he'll say he's the worst Batman, he's not, whatever, and he'll talk about it in a negative connotation, right? Yes, Clooney does, though, in his diplomatic way. So if they were able to do enough to get him back for a project, it would probably be with the promise of, you're going to have some actual meat on this bone, you're going to come back with this. Like, you don't get a Clooney at this point in his career without some of those promises having to be in stone.
And David Zaslav is very much, he made it clear, like, what the mandate that Warner Brothers Discovery is thinking about. Big movies, big stars, right? Like, people who are going to pack a marquee. And after them going through this film and trying to market something with, like, an Ezra Miller, I think that you saw what Zaslav's thinking. You know what he said.
This became the Michael Keaton movie featuring the Flash.
Right.
Exactly. Here's Michael Keaton and Affleck.
In the advertising, anyway.
And some other people.
It's not that bad in the movie, but you might as well have thought this was a Batman movie by the
exactly.
commercials.
Well, okay, so Janelle is perfect for this, because when we were talking about Batman and Son as the part of the new DC slate, I remember you not being super intrigued by that. Also, there's been Batman burnout. However, if George Clooney was older Batman and they got like some rising star or whatever for Damian, would that be enough to get you like excited about what that could be?
No.
What?
No,
Really?
He's not Batman.
Oh, sorry for the mics. I apologize.
To me, he's not Batman. It was just a one-off thing. It was cool to see. It was like a call to the past, but it's hard for me to look at George Clooney as an actor anymore. I don't really see him in a lot of things. Like, he's not out there trying to do much besides sell tequila. And
everybody's
which I love
in on
his
that
tequila,
tequila
by the way.
business, man. That thing is.
But I didn't like Affleck in this role. I didn't because I just don't. I don't like the roles that I'm seeing him in. He doesn't. It's just, give me somebody new. I just need a whole reset situation, please.
Honestly, Clooney's 62. Like, if you're gonna have him be Batman, this might as well be a Batman Beyond movie.
I mean, I think it could be, and just not the way we think.
Just not McGinnis.
I could see like Clooney when Dylan O'Brien and Clooney like together. They already had Keaton and O'Brien together.
They need the kid from what's the freaking show with Elliot Page?
Umbrella Academy?
Yeah, Umbrella Academy. The kid that's actually the 60 some odd year old man.
Five. The guy
Five.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone circled him as like he should be Nightwing or something.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I mean I could see that. Like, yeah, how old is Dylan O'Brien? But and that kid are 5. You could flip those roles around, but yeah, I mean I could see a Clooney Bat family, like I could, and I could see them doing something crazy like this. I'm just putting it out there now. It probably will be a one-off, but again, I was right about The Rock and that Fast and Furious thing, so I'm putting my chips on the table. Got to learn to trust myself, but yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Any other things you guys want to talk about? Any other kind of bigger DCU questions you have after this?
I think the fan reactions are going to be one of two things. You're either over 40 and you love it because of Keaton, or you're under 40 and you're like, this is how we're ending the DCEU? And that's going to be the split.
Ooh, yeah, I can't wait. How do you think that... Let's talk about that. What's going to be the Snyder Bro reaction to this?
They made... Cavill's not in it, and they made Affleck a joke. Meh.
I mean, that's already kind of happening, yeah. We've had some interesting posts that I've had to delete off some of our Comic Book Nation Twitter posts about this movie and our reactions to it.
Oh, and I'm sure the Sasha Kaye response is going to be lovely.
Oh, man, yeah, and it shouldn't be. She was dope.
She's
man.
great, but...
Yeah, but yeah, that's
with the movies I like. I'm used to that.
Yeah, I mean,
that stupid reaction. I also tune out almost all Snyder Bro comments on social because those always it felt like everything I was writing for a minute was just like, oh, this is the Snyderverse, and it like just overwhelmed everything. I was like, please go, suck a rock.
I want to say, yeah, people, not enough is being said about Mary Bell Verdu, who plays Nora Allen, Barry's mom in this.
She's
she manned us all out in E Tu Mama Tambien, and now she's making us feel like little boys again in this movie. So that's a nice, like, little, yeah. She took us from little boys into maturity. Now we're back to little boys again. But she's a fantastic Spanish actress, and yeah, she really does anchor down a really key pivotal piece of this movie that would not work. The biggest surprise for me was finding out that Barry Allen is half Latino.
Yeah, because his dad's the dude from Office Space.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have guessed.
Well, how did he get none of the swag? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. Yeah, there's also some weird people in this movie. They bloated this movie with people like, I don't think Iris West really needed to be in this at all. Kiersey Clemens, I think that was just a shout out for her to finally get to do something.
Yeah, because she had been teased for so long.
Yeah, it also looked like they just brought her in for a day and threw a trench coat on her and were like, all right, go film.
And just some painfully awkward conversations.
Yeah, and the roommate characters, which I don't know why they were really into this movie, but yeah, those things were those were kind of weird.
That sequence made me laugh though.
It was. I mean, it was funny because everything in this movie is just so quirky, weird, and funny. And it's just almost like a comedy sitcom.
The whole tattoo scene.
Yeah.
When he when
he puts up his leg, but again, so weird.
Yeah, but it was
so weird. Dude,
is it upside down?
Yeah, he puts his leg in the air. I mean,
so good.
Props to that big man for being able to stretch like that. That was an impressive leg grab. But
flexibility is important, kids.
Yes, it is. Yeah, got to get that IT band working, But yeah, it was just like weird elements in this. But again, I find it uneven because those were the idiosyncratic things that made this feel like its own movie, its own world, and not just a DC baloney conveyor belt product, which it very much was. There's a lot that I mean, we are just full disclosure. We're recording this about a week out from release date. And so there are some things I'm interested to see if they're different in the finished film. Like some of those sequences in the time bubble and stuff like that, where we see the alternate realities and stuff was so, as Connor's not kidding when he said to us in our version of the film we saw, it looked like Polar Express, Beowulf bad, like from the early days of full CGI.
Existed.
Man, pulling out some cuts, man.
We all did. Our eyes did. But yeah, so I'm wondering if like they just don't have a room full of programmers. They're beating with a whip right now to get all of this fully rendered.
All the animators were busy making Spider-Verse.
True. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to see if that makes it into the final film, because if it does, that's kind of rough. But we're going to be careful on some of that because, yeah, they did tell us it was an unfinished cut of the movie. We know that the ending is what we're going to get because I checked with Warner Brothers. You guys got Clooney at the end of this movie. The end. But, yeah, some of the effects and stuff I'm kind of wondering because the ones that are Like, because there are moments that, like, yeah, he's running through time and watching the trailer right now, which are spectacular looking.
Yeah.
And then other places, like, yeah, who put the settings back on PS2? Like, you know, but, yeah, so we just want to see how that things, and yeah, I think the fan conversation around this is going to be wild. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to probably do another whole show just trying to pull that all in and what people are actually saying. But for now, these are our impressions of full spoiler impressions of the Flash movie. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Third best superhero movie I've seen in 6 weeks. If that gives you an indication.
What were the other Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse and Guardians.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, this is, well, I don't know if I like this less or more than Guardians. I don't know.
What?
Wow. Yeah, I'm not one of you kids. I just smile through all your nonsense when you start dropping wrong opinions like Guardians is the greatest thing ever. Okay, sure.
Didn't say that. I didn't even see it.
Well, I've sat around here.
I didn't
Let's
see
not
it
go
when
into
the
this. I've sat
review
around comic
happened.
book for 6 years. I've heard it all. You guys love your Guardians. I do not.
I like the
But
first one.
If you can't tell, I just keep that under my hat a lot.
You
Yeah.
love your Guardian. Man, where'd that come from? I love your Guardian.
You know, you love your Guardians.
Where'd that come from?
Oh my God, this is my Star Wars. Okay.
Wow, man, all of it, all the spice is coming out
yeah,
today.
I mean, I love Guardians 3 too, so it's kind of it's a coin toss up. I'm not sure.
And then you come back to
It doesn't matter. Spider-Verse kills all of this.
Yes. I
So
mean,
it doesn't really
I
matter.
really enjoyed this movie.
I did too.
Way more than I thought I would.
Same here.
seeing this is really hurt. If like I saw Spider-Verse 4 days later, I see this. That really hurts this movie because I'm still thinking about Spider-Verse. I haven't thought about this at all.
I saw them back to back too, and I think that was the thing I was most surprised about because when I sat down for the Flash, I mean, let's just get into it. I was just like, yeah. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. I just saw Spider-Verse, and ooh, that's a hard act to follow. And I mean, I saw them like days apart, and I was just like, no, I still like this very much. Like, I still enjoyed this.
Janelle, what do you do? Final thoughts? Anything stick out?
Final thoughts. I mean, I really enjoyed this film, and I think it's
More
just
than Guardians?
exciting because I really thought I was going to hate it. I
Yeah.
genuinely thought that I was not going to like it. So I'm very happily surprised, and I think it does play out differently in a theater. I think it will. Same
agree
with
with
like
that, too.
Spider-Verse. Like these are films you kind of want to see in the theater.
I agree. There is something to that, like everyone popping at the same time when you're at a live wrestling show and everyone pops for someone's entrance. It's the same thing when people pop at the Clooney moment or the Nicolas Cage, like, or even just like everyone's super quiet during the Barry's scenes with his mom. Like those, that matters.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
does
this
have
is
an effect.
I would say agree. This is not an HBO Max wait. This is a theatrical experience. There's a
great.
lot that this is made to be. The rare thing, and I don't think this gets said enough about this movie. You know, they did do the one thing that people have been asking for, and I feel like people aren't saying it enough, but they were saying DC movies need to be more fun, more enjoyable, and not in a Marvel carbon copy kind of way. And this movie definitely does that. Like, it is a crowd-pleasing blockbuster movie. People laugh, cry, go, oh, at the same time. Even the stuff we saw in theaters still played well when you were in the trailers, and you were like, okay, that's on the nose corny, like the Keaton lines. They played well in a theater. Because even if you were first, like, we're like, okay, he said I'm Batman, that's kind of corny. There were all these people that were just around you who were just like, yes!
And when you get to the, let's get nuts moment, that's after he's had an arc, right? He's come back, he's going to join them, and he's got the mask off, and he says it works because of the context that matters. I agree, because when I saw those in the trailer, I was like, oh, I'm a little on those. That's a little much. But, those work. Because honestly, if he didn't say those, you'd have a bunch of people pissed off that he didn't say certain lines. Those lines are synonymous with him.
And I think
The olds were gonna love this no matter what he said or did. It's Keaton as Batman.
Not
People
true
worship
though.
at
Olds
that
have
altar.
shown as an old. Olds have shown that we don't just like everything when you stick someone that we know in there. There have been
you can
plenty of
ruin
things
some- you can
that have
ruin
been
some
ruined
stuff,
because they weren't executed right.
No, but I think, and Keaton, I believe he ad-libbed the I'm Batman. Like, yeah, I'm Batman. Like, that's why it also works, is because it is him organically fitting it in. And so it kind of works better that way. But, yeah, all right. We have a lot to talk about in coming weeks. We can only fit so much in this one spoilers podcast. We sometimes leave out really big things because we're so obsessed with certain things. Is there anything we left out or missed that you guys want to talk about?
If you meet yourself from 10 years ago, you would think they'd suck. I agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's half the joke of this movie.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I would completely.
I hated
suck.
American Idol, Janelle.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. If you don't look at an old photo of yourself, like, and you're like, ooh, a little bit, that means you didn't. If you're still like, still got it, that means you're that person. You're Ben Affleck from Dazed and Confused, you know.
I would slop like I
Or
would.
Matthew
slap
McConaughey.
Holly
Sorry,
Berry.
you're Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused, right? You're not getting it. You are the joke. So like, yeah. There is. That was my favorite part. And the hardest part about this is Ezra Miller doing a spectacular job acting against Ezra Miller and their conversations with each other. That was really fun, and just yelling at your other self and younger self. So yeah, there are a lot of good parts with that, and even the younger Ezra with the laugh and all that stuff. Like, it was, in fact, could have been really bad and cringe, but it actually was really effective. So that is also the movie's biggest problem, that you can't get over the fact that the star is a major talking point of why this movie works in any kind of way. So, final thoughts. Let's go out on a dark note, because this is Comic Book Nation. This ain't Phase Zero. We're the ones who have the switchblades in our pockets. So, let's use those switchblades now. Do you think Ezra Miller's coming back after this?
Nope, because I don't think this ever gets touched on again.
Okay. Matt?
I don't think so. But I just think it's yeah, I don't think so.
Janelle?
No, and I'm okay with it. I feel like a beautiful little present has been wrapped up and the story's good. Just let it be.
Oh, good answer. I want that answer. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, my whole Clooney theory falls apart if they go the route, and I think it's the smartest, safest route of saying, as we saw, you know, there's a whole bunch of those little spinning worlds out there. We closed off one. Now let's go explore another, and let's just start fresh, and you avoid so many problems. But, you know, this is always Hollywood, and this is America again. If America discovers a new star from this movie, I'm a cynical bastard. I'm a Logan Roy.
Yeah, but you don't even have to do that, because there was crossover. Like, the people were all moved around. Reality's different. All you have to do, if you wanted to use Sasha, all you have to do is go, she's in this world. Like, you don't have to.
No. But I'm just saying, what I'm saying is, if people discover Ezra Miller through this movie, and there's so much hype and buzz and interest in them, I'm a cynical bastard, and I think I've done this long enough to think that Hollywood's going to try to cash in on it.
I don't even think that works, because A, he was in Justice League, and B, he's already in the Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts franchise. Like, enough people at least recognize the face.
Also, you can just go. My point is not that they won't do another one if it's super successful, and he is. But you already have his world built. Like, that's the point. It wouldn't affect your other plans. You literally just go, if you want to do it, which I don't think that's something that should happen, but I say if you want to, you just go back to this world. It's the world with Clooney as Bruce Wayne. It's the world, you fill it out with whoever you want, but all of that takes place on this world. It doesn't have to necessarily affect your new world. I think you've set it up to where you can have both.
Oh yeah, you definitely have.
You should, and
They're already
they
doing
shouldn't
that.
impact
Joker, the Batman.
Yeah, they shouldn't impact each other. That's the whole point of an Elseworlds. That's why we should have been doing Elseworlds from the freaking beginning, like I said 5 years ago, because that's what sets you apart from Marvel. And then Marvel kind of slowly crept up and started doing all the multiverse stuff ahead of time before all them.
Kind of.
So I'm saying, like, that's what makes Elseworlds appealing. You can have them all do. How many Batman stories are there, all in their own little worlds, and no one cares because they're good unto themselves.
Make a Speeding Bullets movie, you
I was
cowards.
just saying, man. You know, Holy Terror, like, like, do it. But I'm saying, like, you can do it, and that doesn't, whether people like that or don't, it doesn't affect Batman because they're all their own little worlds.
The world does not need a Holy Terror movie.
I'm just saying that's one of them, though.
That's not even a Batman story.
I'm saying it's terror. No, I'm saying the point is it's a separate adventure. Like, it's a separate thing. It doesn't have to. If you wanted to do 4 Green Lantern stories, they don't have to intermingle. You can do 4 different stories on 4 different worlds, and it's okay.
So I think you're in the camp with me with we're going to wait and see what Hollywood decides.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
All that to say
So we're still in the same place. All right, everybody. I think we're going to cap it there. I think we have done all we can do with The Flash. Thank you very much for tuning into our bonus episode. If this is one of your first experiences with Comic Book Nation, Please do subscribe to Comic Book Nation's page on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And join us every week. We launch our live show every Friday at noon Eastern. We invite everybody to tune in and talk with us. We have regular fans. We have a whole regular fandom that chats with us every week and gets into all these things we're arguing about up here, and we'd love for you to join us. You can also find our full reactions to The Flash, and our review show will be coming up, and by the time you hear this, those will all be out there, so be sure to check those out as well, because I'm sure we have some evolved thinking in some of those places and some more depth to go into. So check that all out, and we will see you guys on our regular show on Comic Book Nation on Fridays. Peace.
Deuces.
Later.